on a subject which is vital for Pakistan's economic growth. The kind of infrastructure development needs that Pakistan faces simply cannot be financed by the traditional methods of financing that we have been deploying so far. I was looking at some numbers which estimate the financing. I think it's a Nation Development Bank study, which has estimated that the financing needs or the financing gap between what is being spent and what needs to be spent on infrastructure development in Pakistan over the next decade or so is almost 5% of GDP. 5% of GDP is more than the entire PSDP of the federal government of Pakistan. So that's the level of the challenge that we are facing. So the need for innovation is very obvious. However, our experience with public-private partnership for infrastructure development has been mixed, I would say. There are two main areas where it has been deployed so far in development of major road networks, but most of all in the development of our power generation capacity, starting with HUBCO in the early to mid-90s, and then 2 or 3 different phases of IPPs that have been put into place. The good thing that happened as a result was that we were able to develop much needed infrastructure. We were able to draw in private investments to make that happen. But I don't think we are fully satisfied with the results that were achieved. There is a feeling that the risk-return trade-off was perhaps not appropriately balanced. So hence I like the word of what has been added here, which is innovative structures. So we don't need just public-private partnerships, but innovative structures so that this risk-return trade-off can be managed better. One of the manifestations, and which is now starting to become a roadblock by itself, is that far too many of these investments have been based on the back of sovereign guarantees issued by the government of Pakistan. And you perhaps are all aware of the kind of problems that we are running into it. It's grown to a size where perhaps for the first time, I don't think maybe Shamshad Akhtar Sahiba would be able to educate us. I think this is the first fund program in which one of the targets relates specifically to sovereign guarantees outstanding. And that's because the size had become so significant. And they had been dished out liberally, so much so that when the program was being finalized, there was a bit of a struggle even in trying to quantify how many sovereign guarantees are outstanding. Overall contingent liabilities has become a massive issue for the finance ministry. So we need to find out ways of creating public-private partnership structures where we don't rely solely on these sovereign guarantees. There's a lot of talk about utilizing the gap fund, the viability gap funds, but I don't think we have a full handle on it at this point in time, how to make that happen. So those are the things that need to be addressed. Clearly, there is tremendous infrastructure development needs that the country faces. There is paucity of the ability to finance them in a traditional way. So the innovative structures, the innovative financial instruments and structures are definitely needed. But I would also reach out to you for another need, which is the government's institutional capacity to do all of this. And that itself is limited. There is a very interesting structure in the shape of the Public-Private Partnership Authority, which kind of sits in the finance ministry, but the board is chaired by the planning minister. And I know that that's an institution which significantly lacks capacity at this point in time. We need to significantly strengthen that. And that is something that the government is looking for help on. So that's the other help that I think is needed, and any ideas and suggestions on how to go about strengthening the PPP authority would also be most welcome. The one other element which I think needs to be done before we move forward, because as said that there is a general feeling that not everything was done right in the work that has been done so far, and we're talking of tens of billions of dollars of investment which has already taken place in the last quarter of a century. Perhaps an assessment of what has happened, what has worked well and what has not worked well. Young, I was hoping for, that's the smile I was looking for. I want a more enthusiastic response from Asian Development Bank for this. That is something that we need to get done. We need to get done. And I remember one of the first things I did, interesting that we have friends here. याद है आपको मैंने आपको कॉल की थी, just that was my first week of the finance ministry. And I remember reaching out to him and asking for help. So this is clearly an area, just to summarize again, of tremendous need and importance, of significant gaps in the skills available at this point in time, and therefore any of the work that goes on is of tremendous interest to the government. And what I would like to do is not just pontificate generalities here and move away from this. I would be very interested, and I don't know who can do this, to have a follow-up session where we sit down and I want to understand exactly what was discussed today and what can I do to help make things happen. So I'll really be looking forward to that. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's just my first week on the job here. I've been running around. Sorry for being about 2 minutes late, but I'm coming straight from a meeting for the PM, so I apologize for that. Once again, thank you very much for undertaking this really, really important initiative. Thank you.
Mr. Minister, if you have a few seconds, let me introduce you a bit better. Of course, Ingrid is the Vice President of Knowledge and our Treasurer from the Asian Development Bank. She's already meeting independently of Shud, but she was kind enough to grace this occasion this morning. And of course, on your other side is Professor Yoshino, the Dean of Asian Development Bank Institute. He has been there for a long time now, and ADBI is the think tank or the knowledge platform of Asia, and it's been doing some remarkable work. And Professor Yoshino, to his credit, has come up with several books and articles on the complexity of structuring alternate modalities and approaches of harnessing infrastructure development in Asia. There is rich experience of both developing countries, and we will make sure that that's available to you. My affiliation with Asian Development Bank is well known to you, but at this point I'm also representing the Karandas as a chair of Karandas, which is a joint venture between DFID and Bill, Melinda and Gates, and we are going to have tomorrow a session on and Vice President, but also Yoshino gave a presentation on value capture transactions, how they are structured and how they have succeeded. I'll give you the technicalities later on by sending you something. The whole session has been very interactive, and we've had here people who have been dealing with public-private partnership transactions. Ernst & Young representatives were here. I don't know whether they're still here, but people had to catch flight for the 7th, so they left. And they have done most of the deals. We had a lot of people from Karachi, from the industry. Thus far, I think I can identify Naseem Saab here, who's representing the Arif Habib group, but he's also been the investment. But there are others. I may not be able to cover everybody, but it's been an interactive session. We've had very good feedback. Frankly, there's a lot of work to be done, I feel, after listening to everybody who has been here longer than I have been and who have been involved in transaction. So your suggestion of having an interaction with you, with the Asian Development Bank, and I have to mention that I think, of course, the interest in infrastructure was renewed after the 2008 global crisis, as you very well know. It's a way to revive aggregate demand, which is what Pakistan needs. And Asian Development Bank never left infrastructure. I can testify to that because the 15 years I was there, Philippines was facing exactly similar issues as Pakistan has, and Professor Yoshino, and we were just discussing the Philippines as a case study. And Asian Development Bank has, to our really good surprise, has done remarkable work on PPP. They have been supporting, of course, the federal PPP in institutional infrastructure, but they have also been supporting Punjab and Sindh PPP centers or units that exist. So I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot. It's not covering all the sophisticated dialogue that we had, but just to give you an overview. So with that, let me, if you allow me for 5-10 minutes to open the floor, because these people have been waiting here. If you can afford 10 minutes. Questions for you. So anybody, any questions? आपसे डर रहे हैं मुझे लगता है लोग. Okay, so Naseem Saab, please.
You mentioned that you'd invited me over soon after you've taken over as finance minister then. Now that you're in actually the job you wanted me to come over for, how?
I had a follow-up conversation with a gentleman who was at that time, not at that time when we had the conversation, but just prior to that, had been the National Highway Authority chairman. And a lot of the development work took place under him. He was very familiar with it, and then he was transferred to a multilateral institution abroad. And he explained to me in a bit of detail why it may not be economically viable to do the privatization of the, or corporatization of the National Highway Authority at this point in time, and why it might become possible in 18 months' time. I'm going back a year. So those 18 months are already more or less gone. So specifically, we can take up that particular issue. I think there is a great deal of urgency to this, getting the PPP game up, if I may use that word. We got 250 billion rupees. When the budget was announced, it said 700 billion rupees from PSDP, from the federal government resources, and 250 billion rupees worth of projects under PPP mode. That's a lot of PPP money to be spent, and that is the reason why I specifically mentioned getting the institutional capacity of the PPP authority. The speed at which, to answer your question, the speed at which we can move will be determined to a very great extent by that institution's capacity, because in the end, that's where the rubber meets the road. So we can all at the cabinet level give policy directions, etc., but the institution which has to make it happen needs to have the strength to be able to do it.
Okay, I saw some hands in the corner. Adnan. Adnan used to be at the World Bank. That's where I got to know you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I happen to have just come this morning from the Netherlands to attend this because I actually think this is a rather innovative initiative. And what I would suggest is that you focus in particular as you go forward on new and on digital. There's incredible amount, as you are doing already, but not just for payment systems, but also for funding. If you tap into the diaspora that exists around the world of Pakistan, I actually think that that is something that in today's world geography has less meaning, so you can actually do that without having them all here. So I would suggest that as you think about the innovations in finance, you tap into that pool of asset that Pakistan has around the world.
आप जवाब दें. Please go ahead if you want.
Yeah, I'm saying that that's a comment, it's a very valid comment. The only thing that I can mention, just to add to that, is we've so far focused on infrastructure.
economic framework with Turkey, one of the specific points included in there was this exact knowledge base getting transferred to Pakistan. So yeah, there's opportunity beyond infrastructure also.
Question. Okay, so I'm going to take, okay, now there are quite a few hands. First, a business recorder colleague of ours.
But considering that we've done transactions in wastewater, health, education, roads, power, whatnot, in Sindh, in Punjab, and trying to get that to the federal level as well, is there any priority that you have as in terms of the Prime Minister, which sectors would you like to tap as the first phase in the PPP transactions? Thank you.
Up. बस जी अब और नहीं ले सकते.
One of the prevalent themes, like one of the most pressing themes discussed today was the fast urbanization in Pakistan. So you have a vast majority of population moving towards the urban centers. How is that featuring in the planning department? And more importantly, ADB pointed out that currently, according to their estimates, 8 to 10% of our GDP must be dedicated to infrastructure development. What are some of the challenges surrounding that?
Just 1 second, yes, because you have been putting your hand up. Yeah. मुदस्सिर, आप खड़े होके ऐसे ही बोल रहे हैं, सब सुन लेंगे आप.
On the housing sector, and there's a huge potential, as we all know, the government's focus is there. My question is that to unlock that private sector capital, be it from the banking sector or developer finance or anything else, you require the framework, both the legal, the regulatory, RERA needs to be there, the mortgage recovery law needs to be there, all that regulatory framework, the legal framework needs to be in place right now so that that can take off. What is happening there, and we see that things come into the parliament and they're drawn back. So I think that's something which is very critical for this sector to take off.
Okay, Asad, I know you have limited time.
Yeah.
Pick your question.
And I've got limited bandwidth also now to remember 5 different questions. Provinces, Ali, you asked for the provinces. Actually, provinces, as somebody later said, have better capacity, institutional capacity for PPP projects than the center does. There's a very dynamic, you're talking specifically about Punjab. Hashim Janabakht is a very, very bright, dynamic finance minister. So I'm sure they will be strengthening that further. Risk appetite, that's a tough one. Okay? That's a tough one because of the environment in which we operate, not just the political and the media environment, but also NAV and everything. So we have reached a situation in the country where bad judgments are now being equated to crimes. And in an environment like that, you're going to have risk-averse decision making, and that's just the reality. And that is not going to change very rapidly. That's just something that we have to live with. Our question was
Sectors, your priorities.
Sector planning ministry का तो कोई अलग से there is no priority in isolation from the rest of the government of Pakistan. What is the government of Pakistan's priority? Very simple, it had been which we had communicated even prior to the election, right? We said we want to the 2 biggest priorities for the government of Pakistan are going to be job creation and exports. So any sector which links into both is obviously top of the head, right? For example, tourism, job intensive and earns foreign exchange. Just as an example. So therefore other sectors, housing is another one, has massive knock-on effect, serious job creation potential, information technology, IT-related services is another major area of importance, and so on and so forth. So it's the overall economic strategy that dovetails into the PSDP priorities as well. Question number 4 was from where?
Urbanization.
You were asking a question about urbanization and what kind of challenges that are created which link into the topic that we talked about. Housing. There is massive need for housing. Forget the rest of Pakistan. Just look at Islamabad. You got Kachi Abadis, supposedly, as we call them, all over the town. These are not people who are criminals who come and occupy land. If you look at the rate at which the influx has taken place, Islamabad has gone from 200,000 people to 2.1 million people in a matter of just a few decades. It's exploded, and we just simply have not provided obviously also means that you're going to have water will have to be taken. They're moving from historically populations were where the source of water was. Now they're moving to urban centers, so water now has to be moved here. So and that's why if you go to any major town of Pakistan right now, you want to win an election, solve the water problem, and you win the next election. So that's another major area. And then obviously education then comes in, health. Islamabad is still sitting with the same pins and polyclinic which were there decades back, and the population has exploded. You don't have primary health institutions, so all the burden is coming on tertiary health institutions, blah, blah, blah. So all that things will go there. And the last question was, when will you get on with it? Okay, so the understanding is there, that's why the Housing Authority was, the Pakistan Housing Authority was created to be able to champion all of this. I've been out of touch for 7 months. I know RERA law was made several months back, so by now it should have been adopted. For the legislative part, I can tell you, there is a judicial part, because you know that there has been a judgment sitting in Lahore High Court, and every time we have a review with the Attorney General, we are expecting a judgment the next week. It has been months since that's been going on. But as far as the legislative process is concerned, we took an initiative just a couple of weeks back when these ordinances came to the National Assembly, and there was a bit of, let's say, tussle between the opposition. So we sat down with the opposition. We agreed on the process to be used for those specific 11 bills. On 9, we reached an agreement on how to process those bills. On 2, we will engage further before the next assembly session starts. And then we said we will turn this into a general understanding of what the rules of the game are going to be, because obviously all our constituents, regardless of whether we are in the government or the opposition, want to see legislation. So hopefully you will see that the legislative gridlock that we have witnessed for the last 15 years will get better, which doesn't mean that there will not be political points going on. That's part of democracy, that's what happens all over the world. That's why the US government shuts down every few months. So you can't take politics out of democracy, that will still be there, but hopefully the process will be streamlined and it will function much more smoothly than it has done. At least those laws which are not political in nature, you will be able to see their passage more smoothly. Thank you, and
Thank you.
I apologize for being rushed.
No, that's
but
okay.
I am not ready.
Thank you for coming out here, and everybody appreciates.
Asad sir, may we request you for a group photograph before you leave, please? Just a picture. May I request Ms. Ingrid, Ms. Yang, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, of course Ali, and Professor Yushini to please join us for a group picture, please. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Asad Umar, for being here and for making these insightful comments. Once again, we had a fantastic lineup. Thank you to all our speakers, panelists, and contributors. Ladies and gentlemen, with this,